recording as well. Refer back to that. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being so punctual. And yeah, so I'm Jacqueline, and Ben is with me as well.
Hi guys.
Hi. Yeah, we'll introduce ourselves a little bit, and then we'll tell you a bit about what the webinar is and what's going to happen, and we'll be wrapped up in an hour from now. And as I said, you all get copies of the recording as well. So if you do need for any reason to suddenly rush off, you can come back and watch the end of it later on. So I'm Jacqueline Buckingham. I'm an animal communicator and I teach animal communication as well. I've been doing that for about, 15 years now, something like that. So I started out doing it, I guess I started doing it naturally as a child, growing up on a farm, but I didn't really know I was doing it. I didn't know it was anything unusual. And then I stopped doing it as I got older, which I think is quite common for many children, and many of us. And then it came back to me in 2012, when I was living in a community in the north of Scotland, and someone came to teach animal communication, and it reminded me of what I used to do as a child. And then from there, I was mentored as a teacher as well, and now I offer this work around the world. I'm also Aussie as well as English, so that's why I have such a close affinity with Australia. I come over there quite a lot. And Ben and I will be offering a retreat later this year, which we'll tell you about in a moment. But first, I'm going to let Ben just say a bit about who he is.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Yeah, like Jacqueline, I also grew up on a farm and had a lot of experiences with animals and nature, and horses were a big part of my life as a child. My parents used to run treks up and down the river, and I would be, when I was first born, I would be in a little pouch on the front of the horse with my mom, and then eventually I had my own pony and my own horse. So I had a lot of experiences with animals when I was younger, and when I left school, I started a career as a professional horse trainer, and I focused on horse psychology and horse behavior and helping people understand horse psychology, and that became a significant reference point for the work that I do today. As I work with horses over a period of time, I started to realize that it's not about the horse. The horse is just reflecting back to me or to other people, reflecting back to them the aspects of themselves that they need to acknowledge on a spiritual and energetic level to learn and grow and evolve. And it was a somewhat painful realization for me, because I had a lot of things about myself I didn't want to see. But when I started to honor those things, those lessons that the horse wanted to teach me about myself, those spiritual lessons, my whole life transformed, and a lot of the mental health stuff that I struggle with started to dissolve and heal. And so it was very profound. I had a lot of mystical experiences that I had with horses that were showing me the way, and that led to this work. And so now I offer equine facilitated experiential learning workshops. I do life coaching. I'm also a counselor, and I've studied many other healing modalities. And I really, with the focus of my center point of the work that I do, is authenticity and helping people reclaim their authentic self and find who they are under the layers of conditioning and masks and personas that sometimes we adopt as protective mechanisms to protect who we are. And that's kind of the essence of the work that I do and the work that I'll be offering in the retreat with Jacqueline later in the year. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So Ben and I, we collaborated last year. We offered a 3-day workshop then together, blending our work, the equine facilitated experiential learning, and then animal communication as well. And it worked really well. And then we've been dreaming into this idea of holding a longer retreat. So what we're offering in October, the last week of October, 26 to 31, is a 5-day immersion residential retreat in the Promised Land, which is near Glenafar, which is near the Coffs Coast. For those of you who are in Australia, you should know where I'm referring to. And yeah, it's going to be a residential retreat, so you'll be camping either in your own tents, or we have beautiful bell tents available, or in a camper van if you have one of those as well. And we'll be diving more deeply into this blend of our work, which really, the overlap is, yes, is this heart-centered attention, heart-centered connection. The heart is also where we connect with the animals. This is where animal communication begins and where it really happens. That transfer of information happens at the felt level. And I don't just mean like emotional feelings, I mean that the whole body is involved, all of our senses are involved, but it really focuses on the heart connection first and foremost. So, in addition to telling you a bit about the retreat and answering any questions you might have if you're curious about it, we wanted to offer you a little taster of the kind of work we're going to be providing you with at the retreat. And then we're going to finish around about quarter past the hour, quarter past, 20 past, and we'll give you some time for any questions then at the end, either about our work or about the retreat itself. So yeah, back to you, Ben.
So yeah, I guess we're going to talk a bit about the retreat, are we? And go into a bit more detail about that.
Yeah, if there's anything else you want to share about the retreat now, and then
yeah, like I think for me, the focus will be, like I mentioned previously, that the focus is always getting people back into that alignment with their authentic self, and helping people to free themselves of some of the things from the past that we hang on to that stop us from being able to experience that fully. I think for a lot of people, and myself included, when I say this, being authentic isn't always comfortable or an easy thing to do in life. A lot of times there are a lot of circumstances and a lot of external things that we experience in life, especially in our past. When you look at, if you want to call it trauma, or you want to call it experiences that we have where we have to do things in our life to hide who we are, that most authentic part of ourselves. We might have to hide aspects of ourselves in order to survive, in order to meet our survival needs, in order to be safe, and in order to meet some of the other needs like love and belonging. One of the questions I always ask people about their childhood is, who did you have to be or not be in that home environment in order to receive love, to feel safe, to belong? And that's a very kind of deep kind of question to ask, because it says a lot about as children how much we are very much conditioned about from our environment that we grow up in, and by those key experiences that we have where we have to hide parts of ourselves in order to stay safe, in order to um, meet our needs. Because as children we're very vulnerable. We have to rely on our parents for a lot of those fundamental needs in order to meet them, and if we don't allow ourselves to really understand what we had to become in order to meet those needs, I think we struggle with being authentic because of it. So that conditioned self that we develop, who we have to become in order to meet those needs, sometimes it is not a healthy version of who we are. Sometimes it's the version that we had to be to survive, but it doesn't mean it's the version that we are deep down. So that understanding those distinctions are really important in the work that I do. And really, when we understand who we had to be to meet those fundamental needs, we can also understand that becomes the blueprint or the framework, if you will, that we carry into our adult relationships. And it's how we meet our needs sometimes in adult relationships, which can sometimes be dysfunctional and can cause us a lot of suffering, and also cause other people a lot of suffering. And a lot of it is unconscious. As children, like I always say in a lot of my workshops, as children we're very impressionable. From the age of about 1.5 to about 8 or 9 years old, we're in theta and alpha brainwaves. So our subconscious is highly impressionable. Anything that we experience goes directly into our subconscious, and it very much gets stored in our body as a very powerful memory. And as we reach that age of 8, 9, 10, and we go 10 or 11 or 12, we we start reaching that age, we transition out of that into what they call beta brain waves, which is a low range beta. And low range beta brain waves basically are responsible for when we develop that capacity to have a rational thinking mind that's separate from what we're feeling. So we can separate ourselves from our emotions and analyze them and have more self-awareness. Whereas when we're younger, we our experience is who we are, if that makes sense. Is everybody following me? And so in the retreat, what I want to be focusing on for most people will be looking at some of those core experiences and how those core experiences have impacted you and are impacting you currently in your life. And as it relates to animal communication, I think from my experience of working with horses and people in a professional capacity for 17 years, I saw a lot of horses struggling with people that would project a lot of their own trauma and things onto the horse. The horse would feel like they have to almost put up with a lot of the stuff that we're carrying, and I'm talking about myself included. And when I know what I noticed was that when I started opening people up to looking at themselves, what I noticed was that the horses they wouldn't need as much training, they wouldn't need as much work. The people, when they were doing the work, the horse would almost meet them where they were at, if that makes sense. So there was almost a sense of like not needing to change the horse, but to allow the person to see more deeply into their own pattern, allowed them to be more vulnerable and open and receptive, and to let go of any judgments they had towards the horse, which then allowed them to have a much deeper connection to the horse, which allowed the relationship to flourish, if that makes sense. Um, and that was what catalyzed a lot of the mystical experiences that I had with animals as a result of that work that I did. And so what I'm sharing with you in essence in the retreat is all of the tools that I developed along the way in my own mental health journey to heal a lot of the wounds that I had, and also with a lot of people that I've worked with since that point, to help them heal and transform their lives. And I'll be sharing that with you, and we'll be integrating that with Jacqueline's work so that you can get firsthand experience of when you have that clean
Yeah.
slate and you're fully present and loving, that you're able to be with that animal in a way that previously may not have been able to you may not have been able to because of past experiences, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not only the horses as well. All the animals that come into our lives do get impacted by our emotional field really quite strongly.
Yeah.
And so, I work a lot with for consultations, and the main thing that people come to me about is some kind of behavioral issue quite often with the animal. And so much of those behavioral issues are learned because of their experiences of living with humans, not necessarily us. Sometimes, we've fostered them or adopted them from previous lives that they had and previous experiences. But so much of the animal's behavior is dictated by the emotional fields of the humans around them. So the more that we can be aware of ours and conscious of ours, the stronger the connection with them, the calmer and more relaxed they can be, and the more clearly we can hear what they are communicating with us, because they're communicating with us all the time. They don't need to learn this. They do this. We're the ones that need to slow down enough to hear what they're saying. So I'm going to be giving you lots of those tools on how do you quieten yourself down? How do you quieten your mind, your body, your emotional field, so that you can really hear those subtle messages that are coming to us? And we'll extend it beyond the animals as well. We'll extend it to the land, to the trees, to the nature spirits. We'll go into other areas of communication as well beyond just the animal realms. And you'll have a chance to chat with animals in your own life using photographs it will bring along, and then with one another's animals. And then from there, as I said, we'll extend it out beyond that to interspecies communication, so all species. But I think, Ben, you're going to lead us into a heart-centered meditation, or a way of accessing that heart's wisdom, that heart awareness. And then,
Absolutely.
and then I'll lead you all into an animal heart-connected meditation after that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, so for my meditation, I just want to do a little bit of a quick introduction into the one that I'd like to do tonight. I think one of the biggest key things, at least in my experience and what I've noticed with people that I've worked with for living a life that has a heart-centered awareness and leading from a place of heart-centered awareness. One of the most important things is that we have a daily practice and we have rituals that we engage in that allow us to lead from that place. And in my experience, a heart-centered awareness isn't something that happens necessarily spontaneously. It's something that happens as a result of a clear intention that we have. Okay, so intentionality is important for heart-centered awareness because it's very difficult for us to um, come from that place if we're not anchoring our energy in our heart center. And so the meditation I'm wanting to do today is something that I practice every morning. And one of the things that I'm going to sort of talk about before I go into it is using anchors, energetic anchors. So, is anyone familiar? If just put your hand up if you're familiar with energetic anchors. You ever heard that term before? No. So, energetic anchors are basically an anchor would be described as something that we can use in our environment as that's relating to our past experiences that anchors our energy into our heart center. So for me, doing this work with people is an energetic anchor. So when I think about doing this work, this healing work with people, and some of the experiences that I've had, those experiences automatically bring my heart into a state of coherence. And so what I'm trying to create in this meditation is what I like to call heart brain coherence. Okay, heart brain coherence. Has anyone heard of that term before? Raise your hand. No, no. So heart brain coherence. Yep. So heart brain coherence is when our heart and our brain are communicating effectively with each other. There's like a deep connection. Um, so when we create that heart brain coherence, what happens is our whole physiology changes. You know, we're getting out of the survival mode, the fight and flight, and we're moving into a whole different state of being. And so the purpose of heart-centered awareness and those energetic anchors for me is to help anchor myself into that heart-centered awareness to create heart-brain coherence and to also create what I call a state change. Okay. So gratitude is really the aim of this meditation for me. I want to create a sense of gratitude so that I feel that gratitude so deeply that it starts to radiate out from my heart center and I start to feel it through all the cells in my body as though the experience is happening now. And this is a great exercise to do every morning as a ritual. And you can do it every day to sort of set the intention of the day and to bring yourself into that heart brain coherence so that you draw into your life more magical possibilities that come from when we're in a state of gratitude. And gratitude really is the ultimate state of receivership. So when we're in gratitude, our heart is open, we're in a state of receiving, and we're in a state of being able to witness and create magical synchronicities in our life. Does that make sense? So, what I want everyone to do is I want you to close your eyes for a second, and I want you to take a few deep breaths, and I want you to start thinking about what you would consider to be as a an energetic anchor. What's a place that you go in your life that you can consistently rely on where your heart feels opened? What's an activity? What are you doing? Where are you? Who are you with? Have you got a memory that you can use? Can you remember a past experience where your heart was open, where you felt deeply connected to yourself, your divinity, where you felt a deep appreciation and love for life? So I want you to allow yourself to find a memory, or you can also visualize being in a certain setting that will allow you to feel that energetic anchor to your heart opening and expanding. So I want you to find that memory. And as you find that memory, I want you to take yourself there mentally, emotionally and physically. Just allow yourself to become completely present with the energy of that experience, the energy of your heart. And as you do that, I want you to draw your awareness to your heart center. And I want you to notice your heart and allow your heart to start opening and expanding. And I want you to feel the presence and the love of that experience, that energetic experience. I want you to allow yourself to go there and to notice all the details of that experience. I want you to notice what you're feeling. I want you to notice where you are. Why is this experience so special to you? What was so magical about it? I want you to allow yourself to feel as though you are there again in that magical moment, that magical experience. And as you go into that experience, I want you to start breathing deeply into your heart center. And you may even decide, if it works for you, to put your hand over your heart center and breathe deeply into your heart center. And as you breathe with each deep breath, I want you to go deeper into that experience and feel it more. With each breath, allow your heart to open more fully and to experience more and more that opening of the heart. I want you to draw your awareness to what made you feel so grateful about that moment. What was it about that particular experience, that memory, or that particular moment that made you feel so grateful? That made your heart become full with appreciation and love. And I want you to allow yourself to feel that love fully, to let that love envelop your body, every cell of your body. And as you drop deeper into this state of heart brain coherence, this deep appreciation, I want you to allow that heart centered awareness to expand. Let that love expand out from your heart center around your body. And I want you to feel the loving presence of that energy as it consumes your body and moves outward and permeates the field of energy around your body. I want you to allow yourself to feel that heart centered awareness, that love, that deep appreciation. I want you to allow that to expand outward and to feel it. And if you feel the need to allow those tears to flow, then just let them flow. And you feel that love touching your heart, expanding around your body. I want you to stay in that loving presence and just allow yourself to be there. Allow yourself to be fully immersed in it. Allow yourself to become one with that love. Allow yourself to experience it fully. And I want you to stay that loving presence. I want you to feel how it impacts your body. Feel how it makes your cells tingle. Feel that higher frequency of divine love and how it radiates through every cell, gives you a spiritual upgrade. And I want you to express from that place a deep love and appreciation for the part of you that's connected to your divinity. Express that deep love and appreciation for all the beautiful gifts in your life and all the amazing things that become possible from this place of love and connection to heart-centered awareness. I want you to thank yourself and your own higher self for always being there for you and for giving you this gift of love. And I want you to thank your heart for its beauty and for the fact that it's beating for you every day without you asking it to. Just thank it for doing a wonderful job. And I want you to thank your body for all the things that it does for you without you having to ask it to. Allow yourself to feel that deep appreciation for who you are. And then slowly, when you're ready, I want you to come back and slowly bring your awareness back into this Zoom call and bring it back to the here and now. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes in your own time.
Thank you, Ben. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I have enabled the chat, so if anybody wanted to share anything about the experience that you just had with that meditation, you're free
Yeah,
to chat
that'd be great.
in the chat. Or if you
I'll
want to
try and
speak
follow that.
about it, you can raise your hand up. We can unmute you, or you can unmute yourselves.
Yeah, would anyone like to share anything about that experience? And before we move on to Jacqueline's meditation? No? I don't think I can see all the screens on mine anyway, so.
I don't see any hands.
Yeah, that's okay. Yep, we can move on. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Well, hopefully you're all feeling nicely centered, heart-centered and present now. So we're going to move on now, and I'm going to share with you a meditation for connecting with an animal in your life. So as I said before, all the connections that we make with the animals when we're wanting to communicate with them starts with the heart, making that connection to the heart. So this practice is not an actual communication as such, but it's to begin to notice that experience of connecting with an animal, heart to heart, and noticing the different experiences that you have as you do that. When we're communicating with an animal, we are doing it through all of our senses. So communication on a basic level, any human to human communication is only, I think somewhere between 80 and 90% of that is the words that we speak. And 80% of it is not the words that we speak. So it's everything else. It's the body language, it's the emotions, the words are a tiny, tiny part of our communication when we're speaking to one another, communicating with one another. So the rest of it is, body language, emotions, the feelings, the kind of intention behind what people are saying. You probably will have had an experience of, you ask someone, how are you doing? And they'll say, yeah, I'm fine. But some part of you senses that there's a lot more that's going on behind what they're saying that doesn't quite match the words that are coming out of their mouths. Does that sound familiar to you all? Yeah, maybe just nod your heads and yeah. So that's all part of communication that we're having at a human to human level. So if you take away the words, then everything else that's left is what we use to communicate with all the other species on this planet. We get very hung up on words, but they really are a tiny, tiny piece of our communication process. The other piece about animal communication or telepathic is a form of telepathic communication. Telepathy, literally, when you break down the word, which I find quite helpful to understand what telepathy is, the word tele means distance. So you think of television, telephone, telegram. Tele means distance. And pathy comes from the Greek word pathos, which means feelings. So telepathy literally means feelings over distance. So that's what we're doing with telepathic process. We're connecting with another being and feeling what they're feeling their experience, if you like, of the world, of life. And then that information can come in through any and all of our senses. It can come as images. It can come as physical sensations in our body. It can come as an emotional response to what they're feeling. Maybe we start to feel the same thing that they're feeling. It can also come as words. You might hear words or whole sentences that just sort of pop up in your mind. So it can come in a number of different ways. It can also come in a kind of intuitive knowing. You couldn't quite name exactly how you picked it up. You just know somehow, like a flash of intuition in a way. So this exercise I'm going to take you through now is a way to start noticing what ways you receive information that's coming back to you across a telepathic connection. The other thing I should also add is that telepathy is completely natural. It's our natural human way of communicating. It's just that in our culture and in most cultures, unfortunately, on the planet these days, most human cultures, we don't put a lot of emphasis on it. So we stop doing it. As children, we do it naturally. And then we kind of grow out of it. We get socialized out of it, you might say. But there are some cultures on the planet, the Australian Aborigines, until the Europeans turned up, were communicating telepathically quite frequently. The San people of Southern Africa, they still communicate telepathically. For them, it's completely natural. And they are slightly bemused by the fact that we don't communicate that way. And in fact, my teacher, Anna Breitenbach, spent some time with the San people and through a translator asked them how they can, what they can tell her about how to communicate telepathically. And they thought she was bonkers for even asking the question, because for them, it was a bit like saying, can you please tell me how you breathe? It was just so completely natural to them. They couldn't begin to explain it. It's just what they do. So just to sort of have that awareness in your mind, your ancestors, if you go back far enough, your ancestors that lived closely with the land, that harvested their food direct from the land, that slept on the land, that were right there with the animals day in, day out, they communicated telepathically with everything around them. So it is in your DNA, if you like to do this. So as I said, we're going to begin with this heart connection meditation. So I'd like you, first of all, to just consider an animal in your life that you feel you would like to connect with. Maybe you've got one in your life now, maybe a family member's animal. And it can also be an animal that's passed into spirit realm. You can also use it to connect with them as well. But if it's a living animal, it's probably going to be a little bit easier for you as a starting point. So those of you who've got your cameras on, just give me a little nod if you've got, or a little wave if you feel you've got an animal that you can think about that you'd like to connect with. Yeah, yeah. Everyone have one? And Anne and Kate, do you have someone, an animal you can think of? Yeah, great. Okay, good. And I can't see you other three, but I just trust that you're with us on this. All right. So again, if you'd like to begin by closing your eyes and bringing your attention into your body. So I'm going to invite you now to relax your body. And you can do that by scanning your body, starting at the top of your head, just scanning down through your body, relaxing your face and your neck, relaxing your shoulders, your arms and hands, relaxing your torso, your belly, and your hips. Relaxing your legs and your feet. Feeling your body becoming heavy and relaxed. And then turn your attention to your heart center, the center of your chest. We were just making that heart connection just now with Ben's meditation. You might notice as you focus on this part of your body, it may have a certain temperature to it. Maybe it feels warm. Maybe it feels a bit tingly. Maybe it even has a color. Just notice as you connect with your heart center, how that feels. And the more you focus on it, the more you give your awareness to it, the stronger that sensation may become. And bring to mind the animal that you'd like to make the connection with. Just picture them in your mind's eye. Now imagine sending energy from your heart to their heart. You might see it as a kind of a beam of light, or even a little thread of light. You might imagine it as a bridge, whatever feels right for you. So imagine projecting from your heart to theirs to make that energetic connection, heart to heart with them. And as you do that, just notice for a moment, when you feel you've made a connection, how does it feel? Maybe notice an intensification of the feelings in your heart that you had before. Now imagining sending them a greeting, just silently in your mind across this heart connection. And begin by letting them know how you feel about them. What you appreciate about them. Maybe you love the feel of their fur, or the sound that they make, or the affection they give you. And as you send them these words of appreciation, just noticing what you feel coming back to you. Maybe you feel some kind of a response coming back to you from them. You might feel it in your heart, you might feel it somewhere else in your body. You might see images. You might hear sounds. Now we're going to take it up a level, and I'm going to invite you to imagine yourself interacting with them. So whatever you might do if you were physically with them, you might want to stroke them, you might cuddle them, you might go for a walk with them, play with them. Imagine yourself doing that, and imagine sending these images across the heart connection to the animal. And again, noticing their response. So again, silently in your mind, send them a message letting them know how much you've enjoyed connecting with them in this way and thanking them for that. And then imagine this connection, this energetic connection dissolving, drawing your energy back to your heart. Then when you're ready, softly opening your eyes again. So that was a slightly speedy version of a meditation that we normally take a little bit longer over, but this is really just to give you a flavor of what are the kind of things that we offer. But yeah, if anybody would like to share anything about that experience, then I'd love to hear from you about that. Did anybody who felt like they made a connection? Was that, even if you felt it was your imagination, don't dismiss it. Do you feel like maybe there was a connection there? Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe. Great. Yeah, Helen, you put your hand up. Did you want to say something, Helen? Oh, you're just acknowledging that you made a connection. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I mean, you can unmute yourselves. If anybody has any questions for us about either of the activities that Ben or I offered, or if you have any questions about the retreat that we're going to be offering later this year in Australia, then you're welcome to do that. Maybe it's a bit late in the evening for people to be thinking about questions.
Yeah, have you got any questions about the meditation that I did as well, or anything that we're going to both be offering in the retreat? Feel free to ask the questions. We love questions, so don't be shy.
And
You're
you're
only
probably
going to get
asking a
more
question that someone
personalities.
else is thinking about anyway, so.
Yeah.
No, okay. It doesn't seem like anybody has anything to say, I'd really love to know
Well,
Oh,
if
I
yes.
do.
oh, someone is speaking. Yes. Who was that?
Yep.
Lovely.
If that's okay, yes. And I apologise for coming in late, and I'm hesitating because I thought you've probably already said this because I missed a few minutes. But can you give an idea of like the structure of the 5 days? Because I understand it'll be with horses a bit, and just kind of how the flow is going to go each day.
Yeah, that's a great question, Anne. Thank you. Yeah, so the structure is so we'll be on a property near Glenafar. There are horses on that property already, and I think Ben possibly maybe it's not far from where Ben is. So Ben, you might be bringing maybe some of your own horses.
Yeah, yeah. A couple of mine. Yeah.
We will spend some time with the horses. There's a round yard there, so we'll be doing some activities in the yard with the horses, connecting with them, doing Ben's work, working on this heart center connection, tracking how the horses respond to us. Ben will give you a whole variety of activities, that will help you to center yourselves, and then you'll notice how those different activities support you, and how the animals change, how they respond to us the more we embrace those different ways of managing our emotions and managing our emotional states. So that's part of what we'll be doing. And then the other part will be the animal communication part. Well, I'll be teaching you the basic skills of how to communicate telepathically, of how to listen, how to ask questions so the animals give you the answers to the questions you want to know about, of how to pick up on what they're saying. We'll practice with the horses a bit with that on site, and we'll practice with other animals in your life and also on the land there. We'll also be spending quite a bit of time doing some nature connection work, because that's also really important. We go and sit quietly on the land, just noticing, like in a meditative state, then that really supports us with both of these modalities. It helps us to quieten our minds, quieten our bodies, quieten our emotions. We drop into a deeper state of connection with life, really, and with ourselves at a deeper level. And then in the mornings, we're also going to be offering some optional things. There'll be a bit of movement practice. There'll be a regular morning meditation before our classes begin. And in the evenings, it will be probably a bit more social. There's a lovely fire pit there. Again, we'll be on the land. We might bring in some nice sleepy evening activities that we can do too. So that's the flow of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me the activities are always centered around authenticity. So for me, from a facilitation perspective, when I do workshops or this 5-day retreat, my focus will be doing a lot of healing practices that you can replicate, on your own as a result of doing this work. And you'll be able to take those practices home with you and replicate that to be able to reproduce the same results when things come up for you that you feel are getting in the way of your capacity to fully express yourself and be authentic. And so a lot of the work I'll be doing will be structured around helping people to dive deeper into what those blocks are. I like to call them authentic self blocks, the things that stop us from expressing who we are and being who we are on a deeper level. And a lot of that work will also then lead and transition into experiential activities with the horses, where you get, once you're open and in that receptive state of heart coherence, and what tends to happen in my experience is that it tends to be like it kind of, once one person goes into heart brain coherence, it's almost as if other people start to follow. It's like we were all drawn into this state of coherence, and when the group gets into that really beautiful state of coherence, I feel like there's a greater merging of minds and hearts to have a much more profound experience. When we go in with the horses, it's like we start picking, we become very awakened to what I call our inner guidance system, and what I call our spiritual senses start to awaken, and we become much more aware of those extrasensory type perceptions and intuitions. And a lot of people will have experiences with horses where they are able to pick up on energetic information from the horse, or from another person, intuitively know it without knowing why they know it. So it obviously ties in very strongly to what Jacqueline's talking about with animal communication. So a lot of the work will be trying to get rid of the blocks that stop us from being able to connect on that deep level, so that we can have a much clearer and more profound experience when we do connect with animals, or with other people for that matter. Like, it's not that it has to be, like human to human communication, 66% of it is non-verbal. It's just energy and body language. So the energetics of that are always going on. Like I said, our heart, generates a field around our body that expands outwards and connects, and so you can be in someone's presence, and you can pick up, your heart can pick up directly from that person's energy field. Even memories, I've had people pick up on memories before, just by being in the other person's space. The memories of surface, repressed memories, and different things. So there's a lot of amazing um, gifts that become available to us, and also capacities when we start connecting on that deeper level. So my focus really is to, step one, to remove the blocks, and then step two is to help people immerse themselves more deeply, and validate some of those powerful experiences and mystical experiences that we can have when we're in that deeper state of heart-centered awareness and connection to ourselves and others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I just want to add there, so for Ben, it's about authenticity. For me, it's about connection. And I think those two things are pretty much, one and the same. The more authentic we are, the more deeply we can connect. And it kind of starts with ourselves. The more deeply we are being ourselves and connecting with the truth and the root of who we are, the core of the essence of who we are, then the deeper the connections become with everyone and everything around us. So whether that's other humans, whether that's other animals, whether that's life, the world itself, those connections become more strong, because it's coming from a place of truth and authenticity.
Mm.
The only other thing I wanted to mention about, working with horses. So you don't have to be kind of a horse lover to come on this course. The horses are a vehicle for mirroring back to us where we're not being authentic and we're not being connected. And horses are prey animals. They're super, super sensitive. What Ben was saying about, our heart field. Horses have a massive heart field. I'm just going to mute you, Ben, because I'm getting a bit of an echo. There we go. Horses have a humongous heart field. It's enormous compared to us, and they're incredibly sensitive. And that's why they are such great barometers, if you like, for what's going on for us. They're such great mirrors for us to work with. So yeah, you don't have to be a horse lover. They're there as a vehicle, and you may find yourself falling in love with horses even more as you do this work. And similarly, if you're someone that's maybe a bit nervous of horses, you may find that this work actually brings you into a deep love for them by the end of it. So it's good to just notice that anybody who's got those sorts of questions coming up around horses themselves. As I said, they're kind of part of what we're doing, and it's not all of what we're doing. And they're our teachers. That's why we're working with them. They're our teachers. So yeah. Anything else you want to add to that, Ben?
That's perfect. Yeah, no, I think exactly what you said. Horses energetically mirror back to us not what we want, but what we need to be whole. So for me, when I talk about authenticity, what I mean is wholeness. And like what a lot of people, I guess, don't realize is that the whole of who we are is made up of lots of different parts. Okay. And oftentimes what happens in life, like I said before, we learn to hide or shut down or repress certain parts of ourselves because it caused us to maybe we got criticized, maybe we got abused, maybe love and affection was withdrawn, maybe it didn't become safe to express that part of ourselves, maybe we had a lot of shame-based experiences attached to certain parts of ourselves. So we learn to shut down who we are authentically, and so you can imagine as a child when we're in that state of wholeness where we express all of who we are freely without any judgment or obscurity, that eventually what happens when we start having those experiences where parts of us aren't okay anymore, we go from this elaborate, amazing, beautiful, 20-bedroom mansion, and we eventually get back to this maybe 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, very small, dark apartment. And that's the space that, that we're living from because of all these, I guess you would call them prisons that we've created because of the experiences that we have. And so that beautiful, amazing, expansive, whole being that we have the capacity to be sometimes gets limited by fear and guilt and shame, and gets contracted into this very small version of what it could be because of some of the experiences we have and the trauma. And so for me, loving and embracing your wholeness and being authentic is about looking in those rooms that we haven't looked in for a long time, and bringing love and light to those places, so that 1 bedroom, one bathroom apartment can go back to being that beautiful 20-bedroom mansion that's such a beautiful experience, and that every room in that house becomes a place we want to be able to live and to move in and out of without feeling like we're unsafe, or that we can't do that.
Yeah, it's a great metaphor, Ben. Yeah, thank you.
And horses,
Yeah,
I
so
guess, essentially. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, I'm just aware that we've only got a couple of minutes left. So,
Yep.
Yeah, so thanks for your question, Anne. That's a really good question, and I hope that was helpful. Gave you what you wanted to know about that. I have actually popped into the chat the link to our booking site. So if you do want to check out and read more for yourself about what the retreat is and what's included, I've also put the dates and the location in the chat as well, just so you can read that for yourselves. But check out on the website page. As I said, you can read a lot more about it on there. In actual fact, I'll add that into the chat too. Sorry, just turn my camera off. Didn't mean to do that. Just quickly, does anybody else have anything you wanted to know about before we head off? Just unmute yourself and ask if you would like to do that. No. Okay. I'm getting an echo again. That might be coming back from you, Ben. Right, I'm just trying to find another link here. Yeah, here we are. So this is also the web page. So the web page has a lot more details in terms of the course content. And then before that is the try booking page as well, which has other information. So you can check those two out and read more about it for yourselves. So meantime, thanks all for being here. And thanks for your presence. I hope you enjoyed those activities. I did get some rather sweet private messages, which I shan't share here, but thank you for your sweet messages. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and have a beautiful rest of your evening or rest of your day, depending on where you are in the world. And
thank you, everybody.
And do drop us an email if you have more questions as well. That's another option for you. And we'll be sending this recording out. Okay. Lovely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for attending. It's been beautiful to have everyone here, and thank you for your contribution to making this happen.
Okay.
And we'll see everyone soon.